Hello and welcome to Comic Island. My name is Arden, and today we are reviewing a few things I picked up this week at my local comic book store. The Dragon Guelph. I don't know why I was vague about what I got from them. So, it's a light week for comic books, nothing really from Marvel or DC in terms of new issues. But I was able to pick up a few things. This was actually the first week I was able to walk into my comic book store in months. So that was kind of nice. I picked up all of these Justice League Europe comics. Yeah. I talked about getting the first issue, getting it in an auction, and then I said I had basically reserved the whole lot if I liked it. And I enjoyed the first book enough, so I have all of this. I haven't read it yet. That's a lot of books, but they're there. And I'll let you guys know how that goes. But I really like Justice League International, and Europe's kind of a side series that was part of its run, so I expected things out of it. Plus, it's written by Keith Giffen and Jim Mattis. It's just some good comic book things. I also picked up this pretty cool Empire short box that they were selling. So it's got a Empire logo, a couple of covers and stuff on it. It looks great. I already put some comics in there. I needed something like this anyways. I was running out of storage space for my books, in spite of being pretty free about giving them away and distributing them accordingly. But it's just nice to pick up. It wasn't too expensive, but relatively expensive for a box. But I really like the artwork on it, and just the overall look and feel of it. Plus, it's the perfect size for comics, so nothing wrong with getting a short box. But the main thing that I picked up that was actually new for me, and hadn't read anything of yet, and was this Firepower Prelude book, and that's going to be the bulk of what we're talking about in this video today. It's a new series by Robert Kirkman and Chris Samney, and Matt Wilson does the coloring, which we'll get into in a minute. Russ Wooten does lettering, and then, the usual editors and whatever. It's another Image book. Unsurprising, Robert Kirkman would be publishing there. And it's pretty interesting overall. This is... Okay, so for those of you that don't know, Robert Kirkman's the creator of series like The Walking Dead. He's written for Captain America before. He's done Outcast and Invincible. Big, influential guy in the world of comics. And I really didn't know what to expect out of this book. All the previews and early reviews and stuff that I read about it seemed to really indicate to me that this was a story that was another take on Iron Fist. Everything about this story seemed to resemble a great deal of content from Iron Fist. And, I'll read the back of this book and you guys decide. Owen Johnson's journey to China to learn about his birth parents eventually leads him to a mysterious Shaolin temple. The students there study to rediscover the firepower, the lost art of throwing fireballs. A power they claim will be needed soon to save the world. Will Owen Johnson be the first person in 1,000 years to wield the firepower? So, it's pretty Iron Fisty overall, but there's little differences that kind of work in its favor. For one thing, it avoids a lot of the tropes that are just so heavily baked into Iron Fist, mainly the journey to the east, where a hero goes out to the mysterious world of Asia and learns ancient Chinese secrets and gains his powers. This is kind of like that, but it subdues it in a couple of ways. For one thing, it's not really featuring any white characters. That definitely helps because it becomes a very different feel of its story, but it still is basically that story because Owen's this American who doesn't know anything about his birth parents and is traveling to this mysterious temple that'll teach him all these cool new abilities and powers. So it is very much the same thing, and he kind of emerges as this hero among them. But it obviously is subverting the white savior complex because Owen's not white. Does it matter? I don't know. I find a lot of modern takes of Iron Fist find little ways to subvert that anyways. But what really kind of sells me on this is the character work. Every single character that Owen meets in this monastery is really interesting. Well, like here we can use the cover from his weird training guy who's kind of like got the usual wisdom thing going on, but he has a huge affinity for pop culture. He's very rueful when Owen doesn't know anything about the movie Karate Kid, and he's like, "Oh, no one's seen that movie anymore." And Owen has a love interest character, and she's interesting, and there's depth there, and even there's these bully characters that very much identify Owen as an outsider and pick on him because of that, and Owen's response to them is interesting, but their characters don't feel super one-sided or overly simplistic. They're interesting enough that I liked all the characters. There's sort of a drill sergeant character. He doesn't do much, but he has a few fun moments. And I found myself really invested in everything going on here, to the extent that when stuff goes down in this comic and Owen is confronted with real danger along with the rest of the, we'll say, monastery or temple, whatever they are, there's stakes here all of a sudden, and this series does a good job at baking in all this stuff without having the benefit of Iron Fist and the history of Marvel behind it. In some ways, there's a ton of value in all of that. Now, a feature that I haven't really talked about, but I really want to, is the artwork. Chris Samnee is a huge part of why I like this comic. Early on, we go several pages with just Owen's journey to finding the Temple of the Firepower, and it's all done in silence. And even looking at it now, there's a lot of stuff that, having read the book, it really sets up a lot of little bits of Owen's character. His whole journey is very interesting. It makes me laugh at one point where he just literally keels over on this page just from the colds and the exhaustion and having no food. It really feels like this remarkable journey. And then when we finally get there, and this image is shown in the preview, this is the first little bit of dialogue. Master Sei Wu, I believe his name is, and Wei Lun. Sei Yu, I think, is the founder of the temple. I'm getting names mixed up, but that's okay. Oh, and then, okay, whatever. So the artwork's really good, and then Chris Samnee does a lot of great penciling and facial expressions, like right here. But what really sells me on it is the color. We look at those images from the first few pages and the mountainscapes, and they're really well done. But even a shot like this, where we get some good shots of butterflies and nature and that sort of thing. The coloring's really good in this comic. It's got a warm, human feeling to it, and when we're in the mountains, it's cold and desolate, and then when there's action and the temple gets attacked, there's a real sense of a change in tone, and the coloring changes a little bit to reflect that. We get a lot more reds and fire and that sort of thing. Appropriate for a comic entitled Firepower. So it's not too soft either, because I wouldn't want that in a book like this. There's got to be some menace to it, and you got to feel like things are going down when they start launching fireballs and stuff like that. This comic does that really well, and Matt Wilson might be one of the strongest parts of this whole thing because he does such a good job with the coloring. It's almost, and in comparison, when things are softer and quieter, there's almost a pastel quality to it. Everything's really soft and gentle in its coloring almost, even in the mountain range, and that trades off nicely with the fire and the action and that sort of thing. So overall, I really like this book, and I would recommend it. It's kind of interesting because it gets me super invested in this monastery, and I almost wish we just stayed there. But instead, the book ends, because this trade paperback is called Volume 1, Prelude, and it's very much about setting up this character, and this feels like an origin story. So then we flash forward, and Owen's back in America and living a suburban life, and a mysterious ninja figure is watching him. It's going to be interesting. I hope all the characters we set up in this book from the monastery are used, because they're all really well done, and I'd like to see them all again. This is a great example of that, actually, because right after he discovers his powers, spoilers there, we get a shot of all these characters set up. His drill sergeant and his little bully buddy in the background, his love interest, and the trainer. All of them kind of I don't know. I really liked them as characters, and that setup and that character work really sets this series apart from Iron Fist, because otherwise it's a lot like Iron Fist, but I'm okay with all of that. I was thinking about reading this book, and I was like, well, a lot of other independent writers and artists would have trouble setting up a series like this because it would be compared to Iron Fist and would have trouble really attracting a new audience and stuff. Robert Kirkman kind of has that baked in. So for him to sort of be pushing away from the big two and creating superhero franchises like he did with Invincible, I'm for that. And there's a lot of setup in here that makes me open to like this being a different story than Iron Fist and this going in different places. All that being said, I do think we could have baked in more differences into this origin story because it does reek of Iron Fist. Like, I don't know if I could ever review this comic without mentioning that character and series, which, to be fair, I have done a lot, but it's because it's hard not to, like it's kind of a ripoff of that. I don't know. I'm having trouble getting past that. I don't know if it's a huge issue either. You know, there's only so many stories you can tell, and maybe it's different enough that this is all about fire, whereas Iron Fist is all about chi and has more problematic roots in its origins. I really don't know. I'm not saying anything affirmatively in one direction or another on this issue. I'm just kind of asking this question because while I liked it, and I think I'd recommend it, if you're a big Iron Fist fan, you probably are going to recognize a lot of beats in the story, and even if you aren't, you might recognize aspects of the story from the Doctor Strange movie and all these other stories that have kind of gone in this direction before. So it's interesting like that. Like, it's not an easy automatic recommendation to me. I'm kind of on the fence ever so slightly about this one. But that's my thoughts on Firepower. If you read this book and have your own thoughts or are checking out the first issue, please let me know. Kirkman also published the first issue of a new series called Negan Lives, which is following up on The Walking Dead, but I didn't pick up that book, to be honest. I was quite content with leaving The Walking Dead as is and wasn't interested in a new series at all, so I haven't read that. I haven't taken an interest. Ghostbusters Year One had their final issue of their 4-part miniseries. I tried to get a hold of those books, but unfortunately my store was sold out, so I put an order in for the trade. I'll let you know how that goes, but that's not coming out until October apparently, so it'll be a little bit of time before we talk about that one. And other than that, there wasn't a lot of books that interested me that were new this week, just because this was a bit of an off week. I had to pick this book up on Thursday, for example, because July 1st is Canada Day, so everywhere was closed. I couldn't get the book on Wednesday like I normally would. And that's why this is coming out on Friday instead of Wednesday or Thursday, like I'm going to try and start doing every new comic book day. And in general, this is a bit of an off week because you Americans have July 4th coming up this weekend. So happy 4th of July, everybody. Stay safe out there more than anything else. And but you know, hopefully you can all enjoy yourselves in some way. Gosh, that's a bummer of a statement to end on. COVID's rough like that. So let's see if I could just talk my way into something happier. Oh yeah, so next week I do have more books on order. Of course I forget them, but I bet I can quickly pull that up for you guys. I did last week, no problem. Oh. Unless my internet wants to be a little slow. Or really slow. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's always like 2 weeks out from when I order them, so I forget. But here we go. There was a new Buffy the Vampire series out, but I didn't do that. I am picking up Deceased Dead Planet #1. They're making all these crazy Deceased spin-offs and storylines, and I'm enjoying all of them, so I can't wait for that first issue to come out. Justice League #48 I'm picking up because I quite enjoyed the last Justice League arc. I don't think I went with Lois Lane #12 because although I might have, it's the last book in that series. but I'm not fully caught up on it yet, so I'm not sure about that. Empire, Fantastic Four number 0, I'm for sure picking up. And that's it out of the list that I see here, but there might be something else I've gotten that is finally coming in. Maybe I have a couple graphic novels on order that I'm not sure when I'm getting, so we'll see about those. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time on Comic Island. You can actually expect a video coming out right after this stream, actually, assuming the timing's right on that. So check that out. We're going to be talking about what we know of Shazam 2. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you next time. And end.